There are 11 million cases of COVID-19 being reported in the United States. Hospitalizations are now topping, well over 65,000. I think we're close to 70,000. It's going back and forth a little bit. On Friday, there were 184,000 new confirmed cases. Over the weekend, some of the data gets a little hinky, so it's tough. Things better to rely on, like what happening on Monday or Friday. There were 1,400 deaths on Friday. It was, I mean, it feels like it was less than a month, and it probably was, where we were just saying new cases were in the 80,000s. And like I say, we recorded 1 million new cases in a little bit under a week. Deaths, there were 620 new deaths reported on Sunday. Again, that is the Sunday reportings are lower, but that is the highest death rate on the Sunday reported since May 17.
Right, and it should be noted that in terms of hospitalization rates, Hispanic and Latino people over 4 times the rate of white people. Black Americans, it's around 3.9 times higher. So this is disproportionately affecting people who are more likely to be working in industries like the food service industry, healthcare, things like that, essential workers, and it's just getting worse and worse over time.
And to some extent, I should not say to some extent, to the extent that we have any good data on this and any good science, the more you're exposed in a given moment, the worse the infection actually can be.
Right, so which is so different than other diseases. I mean, it's really remarkable in that.
It's not binary.
Exactly.
And so, we are facing sort of the worst of all worlds in terms of this surge happening. It's not necessarily coincidental, but people are going inside more generally. The air is drier and colder, and so the efficacy, I guess, if you could call it, of the disease to infect other people goes up. And of course, we're right in on the front end of the holiday season, so people are going to go inside more with other people who are coming from other places, and I guess the fourth element is we have an administration that is completely out to lunch on this.
Well, and then now that he's lost the election and is sort of acknowledging that fact, it gives him even less of an incentive to take it seriously, because he doesn't take anything. I mean, it was the same thing with why you and I both argued that Pelosi should have accepted Mnuchin's package before the election, because now that Trump's lost, there's zero chance that a stimulus is coming at all, or at the earliest in February.
Yes. I mean, I can't imagine any other scenario.
As cases surge and deaths surge and the economy gets even more in dire straits.
There is good news about vaccines. However, I mean, under any circumstance, the vaccine is not going to become terribly relevant until early spring, in the best case scenario. Moderna. And remember last week we heard from Pfizer and its partner BioNTech had a vaccine that was considered to be more than 90% effective, right? And there's obviously got to be more study on this, but Moderna's vaccine, which is co-developed with Anthony Fauci's institute, is being tested in 30,000 people. Half received 2 doses of the vaccine, half received placebo. And what happens is they vaccinate 30,000 people. They let them live their lives, and they see statistically, the likelihood of people getting the placebo and getting the vaccine. Theoretically, if the vaccine doesn't work, there should be more or less the same amount of people who catch COVID, whether they got the placebo or the vaccination. of the 95 cases of COVID-19 amongst these 30,000 people so far, the disease, 90 of those 95 were in the placebo group. There were 11 severe cases, and all of those people received placebo. So the 5 people who did get it with the vaccine did not get the severe cases. Now, here's how this works. You need to have a certain statistic that needs to be hit to move to the next stage of emergency use authorization. You need to have 150 cases. So you need to basically have a third more cases than they've already had amongst this 30,000 people to get a statistical notion of how effective it is. They presumed that they would not get 150 cases until early next year, January, maybe February, because of the rate in which people catch COVID. If you have 30,000 people, you can expect only 150 cases over a certain period of time. Well, because the country is basically on fire with COVID, they anticipate hitting that next third of infected people within 7 to 10 days. They are months ahead of schedule because COVID has increased, the infection rate in this country has increased that much faster.
It's the faintest silver lining imaginable, but it is one.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it cuts both ways, I guess. Moderna was part of Operation Warp Speed. That is where Moderna received $2.5 billion from the U.S. to support their research. The Pfizer and BioNTech did not.
That was more the German government, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Trump took credit anyway.
Of course he did. Of course
he could have just waited and take credit for the Moderna one, which he would have more direct involvement in, but of course not.
Exactly. He couldn't help himself.
Right.
The other good news about the Moderna thing is one of the difficulties with the Pfizer vaccination is that it needs to be kept incredibly cold. And there's just not that many facilities and abilities to keep it that cold, particularly when you start moving into more rural areas. The Moderna apparently is much easier in that regard. It can be stable at refrigerator temperatures for a month and frozen for up to 6 months. So that's very good news. But again, we're going to have to go through a hellacious period before we get to that point. Meanwhile, here is Donald Trump. And I don't know why Donald Trump, well, I do know why he's pretending it, but I don't know why Donald Trump thinks that he has any say as to who's going to get this vaccination, because I got news for you. We're not going to see it until he's long gone. But here he is at the White House yesterday, or Friday.
Waiting for that final approval. As soon as April, the vaccine will be available to the entire general population, with the exception of places like New York State, where, for political reasons, the governor decided to say, and I don't think it's good politically. I think it's very bad from a health standpoint. But he wants to take his time with the vaccine. He doesn't trust where the vaccine's coming from. These are coming from the greatest companies anywhere in the world, greatest labs in the world. But he doesn't trust the fact that it's this White House, this administration. So we won't be delivering it to New York until we have authorization to do so. And that pains me to say that. This is a very successful, amazing vaccine at 90% and more. But so the Governor Cuomo, will have to let us know when he's ready for it. Otherwise, we can't be delivering it to a state that won't be giving it to its people immediately. And I know the people of New York very well. I know they want it. So the governor will let us know when he's ready. He's had some very bad editorials recently about this statement and what's happened with respect to nursing homes and his handling of nursing homes. And I hope he doesn't handle this as badly as he's handled the nursing homes. But we're ready to provide it as soon as they let us know that they'll actually use it. And again, it's a very safe and a great vaccine.
I like the idea of Cuomo just hoarding all of the vaccines.
He's going to hoard all of them. And of course, he's got some bad editorials lately. Donald Trump had a bad editorial recently, too. It was one that was signed by 77 million Americans,
right,
basically
right.
telling him maybe next time.
And he honestly might run again next time. I am not ruling out 2024. Now that I've thought about it a little bit more, I think he's going to launch Trump TV, and that ego, it knows no bounds, and he could win the Republican primary again.
I wouldn't rule anything out, but I also think 4 years away seems like a lifetime.
Totally.
And who knows? I mean, we are going to go through the next 3 months with the potential of getting close, at least in terms of, we're going to get close, I think, by the end of this, to losing as many Americans as we did in the 1918 pandemic,
right?
And 17 pandemic, and it's 1918 pandemic. He kept saying 17, and I would imagine that's going to stick, but we shall see.